प्रणाम बाबा।
आओ तिवारी, सुखी रहो।
प्रणाम बाबा।
आओ आओ, खुश रहो, खुश रहो। अरे रहने।
हम खुलेआम घूसखोरी और धांधली करते हैं। हमारे काम करने के तरीके अपराधियों से भी बदतर हैं। मैं जान सकता हूं हमने ये नौकरी क्यों की, किसकी सेवा कर रहे हैं और जनता हम पर विश्वास क्यों करे।
एक बेर सुंदर का जमानत हो जाए ना वर्मा जी, फिर देखते हैं आपके इस पागल एसपी को हम।
Damn it! मैं तो अपनी ड्यूटी कर रहा हूं। दुश्मन तो समाज खुद है अपना। क्रिमिनल्स, ब्लडी ऑल ऑफ देम। डरपोक नपुंसक साले। वो डैम इट, आधी रात को उस विधवा के घर जाके डराता है उसको। साधु यादव का नौकर साला कहता है प्रैक्टिकल बनो। किस दुश्मनी की बात करती हो तुम?
और बाबूजी, अगर आज हमारा जमानत माफ हुआ ना तो हम जेल तोड़ डालेंगे।
बच्चा यादव की कीमत देने की औकात तुम में नहीं है साधु यादव। वैसे तुमने मंत्री जी को क्या दिया है?
मिस्टर अमित कुमार।
सर प्लीज, आप जो चाहें कर लें, लेकिन मेरे रहते सुंदर यादव की जमानत नहीं होगी।
मैं इस जिले की पहली महिला एसपी हूँ और एक बात आप सब याद रखिए, मैं यहाँ टेबल कुर्सी पर बैठकर सलामी ठुकवाने नहीं आई हूँ।
इस बांकीपुर में ऊपर नीचे दाएं बाएं सब हमारे इशारे पे होता है। 4 बार से बांकीपुर के विधायक हैं हम। 7वीं बार 8वीं बार आजीवन हम ही रहेंगे बांकीपुर के विधायक।
हम तो नौकरी में आते ही समझ गए थे कि मस्ती से जीना है तो कभी अपना इमेज बनने ही मत दो। बड़ा मुश्किल होता है ढोना।
नमक खाकी का खाते हो और उसका हक उन लोगों को बेचते हो जो सिर्फ आपका इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। जिस दिन उनका मतलब बनना बंद हो जाएगा ना, लात मारते देर नहीं लगेगी उनको।
ये तो टू मच कर दिया इसने। हमारी इज्जत का बारात निकाल दिया मैडम ने।
और बहुत काम करती हैं आप।
सर, आपने अपने जिले की जिम्मेदारी दी है तो
आपने हमारा ही पत्ता काटने की ठान ली।
छोटे विधायक, हमारी जमीन बिकाऊ नहीं है किसी कीमत पर।
अरे जमीन तो हम लेकर रहेंगे। अब आप लोग तय कर लो कि हंस हंस के देना है कि रो रो के।
बेबुनियाद आरोप, मनगढ़ंत स्कैंडल्स और खोद खोद के कीचड़ उछाल रहे हैं हम पर। करारा जवाब मिलेगा, करारा जवाब मिलेगा।
वोट पेटी में डलते ही लोकतंत्र का गला घोट देते हैं आप लोग।
कुछ नहीं कर सकता ये मर्द। बढ़िए महान जी, ऐसे ही सही, कम से कम एक बार आपका ताकत भोगने का सुख तो मिल जाए हमको। ढोंगी कहेंगे।
So we are delighted to have such a wonderful gathering of brilliant minds in one room in a very historical atmosphere. Historical because the Indian Journalists Association, the IGA, was established in 1947, the year of India's independence. It was established by V.K. Krishnan Menon, India's first High Commissioner to the UK after India's independence. He made IGA his first choice. Why? Because we believed in the freedom of speech, speaking truth with power. Today, we feel proud to take this torch forward. We're also in a fast-changing global political world, and we need your support. Today, we have the next series of IG conversations, Khaki, Gangsters, and Cinema, featuring fierce stalwarts in their professions, Mr. Prakash Jha and Mr. Neeraj Kumar. And I take this opportunity to request IG President Nabanita Sircar to introduce the fantastic speakers who dare enter the conversation forward for an engaging evening. Thank you all.
Neither of them need much of an introduction, but I will introduce them nevertheless, and I try to keep it as least as possible. It's pretty much something to go with. Mr. Neeraj Kumar here is a distinguished former Indian Police Service officer of the 1976 batch who served as the Commissioner of Delhi Police from June 2012 until retirement in July 2013. The 37-year career, he held key roles in Delhi, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Goa, and the Central Bureau of Investigation,
and in the CBI, where he investigated high-profile cases involving terrorism, organized crime, and corruption, including the very well-known 1993 Mumbai blast and the cricketing IPL spot fixing scandal. St. Stephen's College alumnus, Mr. Kumar also served as Director General of the Tihar prison and was the Chief Advisor to the BCCI's Anti-Corruption and Security Unit. He authored several books, including Khaki Files, the Netflix adaptation of one of his chapters, Delhi Crime, went on to be an Emmy winner, which is really remarkable. And of course, on my right is Mr. Prakash Jha. He's a renowned film director, an Indian film director, producer, and screenwriter, and sometimes acts, and is celebrated for the socially relevant and politically charged Hindi cinema. Born in Bihar, Jha has carved a niche with films that explore themes of power, corruption, and societal conflict, often set against India's heartland. His notable works include Damul, Mrityu Dand, Ganga Jal, Aparan, Rajniti, Arakshan, and several others. He produced the highly acclaimed Lipstick Under My Burqa, a multiple National Film Award winner. Jha is known for blending gritty realism and compelling storytelling, making him a pivotal figure in contemporary Indian cinema. I'd like to request you to give a big hand to both our speakers. Well, while we talk of their collaboration, let me tell you, they've been partners in crime for 61 years as school students. And professionally, they came together for one of, even till date, it's one of the most iconic TV serials, Mungeri Lal Ke Haseen Sapne. The title has become a household adage. And I'd like to know from them how they came together for something like this, and what's the secret between that title, which some of us still use, and does got to do something with the secret life of Walter Mitty too. So who's going to start on this?
Wait, I
Yeah, before I start to answer your question, let me thank the Indian Journalists Association, its office bearers, Nabanita, and also Arunima, my daughter, who has initiated this whole process, which has led to this event. So thank you very much. You are right, Nabanita, that it is this series called Mungeri Lal Ke Haseen Sapne was inspired by The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And it so happened that both Prakash and I, when we were in school, in our textbook was this short story by James Thurber, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And I had always thought of adapting it into an Indian context. And Mungeri Lal, the name, is the name of a minister from Bihar. Very unique name, not many people have this name, and it's very unique to our state. So that name had stuck. And then, I don't know, it's in 1 hour of one moment of what should I say, an inspiration that this name just kind of came to my head. And I discussed this with Prakash. He was in Delhi those days and he was into other productions. He's also making a very famous film of his called Parinati, which was shot in Rajasthan. So I discussed with him. He was immediately reminded of the short story, and the whole idea appealed to him. So he said, "Why don't you write down a concept note, which I will submit to Doordarshan?" Because those were the days in Doordarshan where you had to first submit a concept note, which was approved. Then you had to make a pilot. Once the pilot was approved, then you had to make 4 episodes. And after the 4 episodes were approved, then the 13 episodes or 26 episodes series was approved. And Doordarshan was the only medium or only platform where you could make serials or series those days. So, as far as I remember, this was the whole idea. And for those of you who have not read the short story or who have not seen the film made on Secret Life of Walter Mitty, or who have not seen Mungeri Lal Ke Haseen Sapne, very briefly, I'll tell you that it is a series based on the daydreams of an ordinary man. We all lead our lives, and there is a certain degree of, I should say, ordinariness in each one of our lives, because we all suffer from that complex that, is this the life we had dreamt for ourselves when we were kids? When we were kids, we had all kinds of dreams, all kinds of ambitions, all kinds of passions. Somebody wanted to be a painter, somebody wanted to be a musician, somebody wanted to be a filmmaker, a director. There were 3 of us, 3 friends from the same class. At one stage, we all wanted to be filmmakers. We had met a certain director very closely, and we were all inspired to be in filmmaking. Now, those desires remain with us, and we have this tendency that given the stimulus, we start dreaming that we are enacting that particular role. I'll just give you an example. For instance, those of you who are interested in cricket would have watched the match yesterday. We lost by a very slim margin, 20 runs, 22 runs. Now, people who were interested in cricket or who had dreamt of becoming cricketers or batsmen in particular, I'm sure somewhere they would have imagined that I wish I had pursued cricket. I wish I had made it to the national side. And today was the day I would have proved myself and I would have made sure that India wins. Now that is Mungeri Lal going into his daydreams and Mungeri Lal Ke Haseen Sapne. More about it from Prakash.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very well said, Neeraj, and thank you to the Indian journalist, Mr. T. Nabanita. Where are you? Oh. Hello? Yeah. Say. It happens only when I speak, right? So, it was wonderful. Of course, we had that short story was in our syllabus when we were students in Sainik School, and we joined the school together when we were probably 10 or 11 years old. And we kept in touch because we also went to the Delhi University, me, Neeraj, and the other friend Manjul. Of course, I had different ideas, so I won't get into the story as to how I ran away from the university and went to Mumbai. But Mungeri Lal, of course, Neeraj came up with the idea, and I immediately liked it. And it was, instantly, this Mungeri Lal was not kind of like a planned dreaming. Instantly, he would get into situations which would be real crisis in his life, and he would imagine himself to be something super cop, a super politician, a super singer, or super dancer, or super anything to sort that problem out, and he would live more in that zone and be happy with it, I mean, his own personal life was miserable, but he got over his miseries by dreaming. So that's how it happened. And in fact, between the two of us, Neeraj was the literary advisor or leader, because I remember even in school, he was the one who, at least two writers, you read Somerset Maugham and introduced Maugham to me. I mean, I remember that in school, and also Charles Dickens and several other writers. So he pursued his, although he went to study, you did chemistry in Delhi University, yeah. And I was doing physics. But he continued his literary pursuits, and he was writing, and he had that flair. So it was easy for me to collaborate with him, and slowly, of course, he's developed fiction writing, and he has been my constant companion, advisor, guide on anything that I do with cops. Because most of the times, even if there is a cop character, not principal character, I would of course run it by Neeraj to make sure that I'm not making a mistake. So we have collaborated often, and collaboration on Mungeri Lal was more wholesome than many. And it was fun. I think we should do something like that again.
Well, childhood friends, but you have advised or collaborated with him for films like Ganga Jal, Aparan, Chakravyuh, and Jai Ganga Jal. Now, how did your personal friendship influence, or did it not influence at all, the professional dynamics of bringing authenticity to such projects?
Well, it has only helped, in terms of the drama, the subject, the development of the stories that I eventually have been able to write. His contribution, Neeraj's contribution, has been more on, kind of like, giving me a very straightforward critique. He has every script usually that I write, I run it by some people that I trust. There are some writers, there are some friends, and there are multiple times that I write. And in many of these films that I've written, Neeraj has read the scripts, Neeraj has given me his pointers, Neeraj has pointed whatever he feels should be done. So that's the collaboration. There is never a conflict. There is never a, because I of course ask them to kind of, be the devil's advocate. Tell me what's wrong, what's not working. But then I can set it right. But then sometimes I don't listen. Which is also because I see how my eventually my gut feeling is. But you know, I just a little digression, like writing is the most important part of filmmaking. And each of the scripts, even Gangajal, was written 11 times. It took about 5 years to finish the final finishing draft. The one film that I'm doing now, Janadesh, I'll be starting shoot in a month's time. I've just finished a revision of the 13th draft. It's the writing which we spend time and we keep going back to the board. You keep writing it, keep having it read by, fellow writers and friends who would give us kind of like, their honest feedback. And you rewrite it, and you rewrite it. Because if it's a well-written script, it probably is difficult to make a bad film. But if it's not a good script, no matter what you do, you will end up making a bad film. So that's where we put our kind of like, full concentration for everything when the writing happens. So he has been a part of most of my films that I have written. I have taken his pointers and mostly I sort of like I do my own screenplays. We haven't really collaborated on any of his original subject as yet. It might happen someday, but that's how it works.
Mr. Kumar, I wanted to ask you which are certain aspects of your, say, a particular investigation or an operation that you've kind of discussed and the portrayal has been very realistic, because often truth and cinematic representation can have a gap. Do you remember any of those where you found a true portrayal?
Quite a few, including Gangadhar. Prakash just mentioned that it is not always that he would listen to me or listen to anyone that he bounces off his ideas with. He has his own ideas and he knows what will work and what will not work. Because he understands cinema like a professional. We are just amateurs, out of interest and out of, our friendship that he bounces off his scripts off me and I give my inputs. But for instance, in Gangajal, I gave an idea. I was very struck those days by the whole thing of encounters committed by the police in India. It's not something to be proud of, but we have to face the fact that there is a certain thing called encounters. Most of the time, they're not genuine encounters, But yet, they, at some level, find acceptance by all sections of society for the simple reason that our criminal justice system has still not reached that level of maturity to be able to deal with crime and criminals as they exist in society in India. So I was fairly new to the police. I joined in 76 and we are talking about early 80s when Gangajal we had discussed. So my idea with him and my discussion with him were about this whole scene of encounters by the police that are committed in different parts of the country. Because my batchmates, we would talk about these encounters and each state had its own story about encounters and how the techniques and so on and so forth. So I was very keen that a film should be made which should explore this whole idea. So that is where we started. But at the same time, the blindings in Bhagalpur happened, and Prakash included the blindings into the story. No, he decided that it has to be included. So it was a new kind of encounter, where people are left alive to set examples before the others. Now, however ghastly and however repugnant they may be, but the fact is that they had happened. So at that stage, I felt quite outraged myself that, well, we wanted to explore this whole thing about encounters, and here you have, so I kind of distanced myself to a certain extent from the film. And he went ahead, and his portrayal of was very, very accurate. And whatever we had discussed, he had incorporated it. And he had also brought in the Bhagalpur blindings. And what a portrayal and what a way to explore the phenomena of police encounters in India. So he has very rightly said that we agree, we disagree, but the end result is that he picks up all those things that he requires and uses them and makes great cinema.
Well, I'd like to add something to this because it's very important what he's just spoken about, because we're discussing about cinema and police. See, I remember those days when the Bhagalpur incidents happened. It started very accidentally, because when I started researching, I found that the blinding happened very accidentally in a village where people kind of confronted a couple of dacoits who had come to commit robberies. And in the process of dealing with them, these dacoits got blinded. Or one of them perhaps got blinded. And it created kind of a fear, terror amongst the criminals, because he became like a living example of what people can do to you. And from there it was picked up. So it was a collaboration of people who could not deal with criminals and the police, who found themselves to be completely impotent in dealing with the criminal justices or laws, because our criminal laws are more humane than when you say that guilty only when it's proven, and there are so many ways of kind of getting out of the clutches. So when the whole thing blew up after about 13 months of series of people being blinded in different police stations in custody, it was huge because, journalists, human rights activists, and international media, they kind of landed there and they wrote stories and became a big sort of thing as to how ghastly, the police is, how kind of like, truly they are dealing with people and criminals, all sorts of things happened. 13 cops were charged and arrested. Now the story actually starts here. That when these 13 people were charged, the Vyapari Sangh in Bhagalpur, they held a meeting and collected donations to fight the cases of these certain people. The Chhatra Sangh, they did Chakka Jam. The women used to cook for them and send the food to the lockups and prisons. The people in Bhagalpur rose against the act of taking this police task. They said, "Unhone jo kiya, wo theek kiya." So here is a society which is kind of permitting, allowing, collaborating into such kind of criminal activity. That was my story. How does a cop function? Because this relationship of cop to the society is a Shashwat relationship. If you really start looking at it like I have a question that why do we actually need a cop? Why do we need policing? I mean, it's us. If we make rules, we should follow them. But, all of us would like to break the rules. If we can. If we can get some advantage. लेकिन हमारी मतलब जो कहे कि नॉलेज है या हमारी पढ़ाई है या हमारी संस्कृति है, that stops us from becoming criminals. But all of us, so we actually need it because we need to monitor ourselves. So when the dilemma of the cop is, I remember when Ranga and Binda were caught, and Neeraj was there in Delhi, and when they were actually caught, they were accidentally caught. Train mein ja rahe the wo log, and they were just caught. And then the phones from the minister, people, have they confessed? Have they confessed? Now, if you actually interrogate in the manner that is prescribed in the rule books, the criminals may not kind of might take its own sweet time, or you'll have to find the kind of proofs to force them to confess. But मतलब जेल के बाहर, लॉकअप के बाहर खड़े होकर के लोग गाली दे रहे हैं पुलिस वालों को, चूड़ियां पहन रखी यार, तुम कन्फेस नहीं करवा रहे हो. So the society forces you. It's actually forcing itself. So this is the dilemma which every cop in such situations faces. And that is my subject. Whenever I use cops, कि सही है कि गलत है, वो हम सब के अंदर है. हम सब चोरी कर सकते हैं और हम सब चोरी करना चाहते नहीं हैं. But we stop ourselves because of certain kind of culture, indoctrination, education, So that's where the subject kind of makes it interesting.
And in the film Aparat, which also draws from the kidnapping culture in Bihar, did his insights kind of into organized crime influence the portrayal of certain characters like the Tabriz Alam or the film's gritty narrative?
See, it's over a period of time that kidnapping becomes, part of a business. Kidnapping is not kind of a culture. It's just like to make money. This is also one way to make money. Now, who can make money by kidnapping? Criminals will make money by kidnapping. And criminals need the support of the system to be able to continue that. So they need the support of the police, or they need the support of the politicians, or the network. So apparently is about that. The criminal becomes politician. Each of these films are basically reflective of how the society has developed over a period. Like Ganga Jal before Gangajal, the film was Mrityudand, which actually dealt with, the unique development of our society. Like, because, we don't forget that he had a tremendous impact on the society of two lethal developments. One was the Mandal Commission, and the other was the open market economy. Both happened roughly at the same time. So the Mandal Commission suddenly gave power to the backwards, political power, real kind of power in numbers. And the open market economy brought the money into the system. So the moment you get the political power, you also have the power to decide over the money, like who will make the road, who will make the Panchayat Bhavan, who will do this construction, who will do that construction. And they, the zamindars became the thekadars. So that change happened, early 90s. Well, when I did Gangajal in 2002, actually there was kind of the struggle was not so much about caste system, because that saturation had taken place. In Gangajal, actually one Yadav kills another Yadav, and that was done deliberately. I mean, of course, you won't notice it, but that was done because then there was it was all part of money. We are developing more towards, a society which was affluent. So in Apharan, again, the business of kidnapping, to feel the business of kidnapping, you take political patronage and power. So politics becomes like, there are so many stories of cars being stolen, and actually, eventually people find it outside Gandhi's house. So those stories that, many of the negotiations were done by the politicians. But these might just be, figment of imagination, but, this Apharan was about that. But society has come to, and then of course, later on, things fade, and again, how the society is developing, because society is my main hero of all matter. It's not a character. This is right way. How things happen the way they happen, those are the stories that I work with.
Your other film, Chakravyuh, dealt with the complex situation of nationalism with a police theme at its core. Did Neeraj Kumar's perspective kind of on law enforcement and Naxalite activities kind of shape any character or things like that?
It must have, because, he read Chakravyuh script, and he must have kind of like, suggested, I can't put my finger on something, probably he would remember any specific thing. But, as before I answer that question of yours, I just go back to how the societal compulsions determine the conduct of the law enforcement in our society. And I just want to give one example that I'm personally aware of. I was the commissioner of police when that very unfortunate incident of Nirbhaya took place in Delhi. It was one of the most ghastly incidents that have taken place, and it drew the attention of the whole world to that, to Delhi and to what was happening there. And we were really in a very tight spot, and I can say with considerable pride that we managed to crack the case in record time and made sure that all the accused were prosecuted very correctly, and all of them except for one guy who attempted suicide and the other who was a juvenile. Except for these two, all the remaining were hanged. Now,
Nirbhaya, which when it happened, my police force was under attack, and we were at the same time conducting the investigation. So I took it upon myself to shield the people who were working in the field from all the pressures of the media, of the politicians, of the society, and make sure that they have their freedom to quickly break the case and arrest the people. And as some of you may know, that they were caught under very difficult circumstances from different parts of the country, from Naxalite affected areas in Bihar, from a very remote place in Rajasthan, and so on and so forth. So one incident which has stuck with me is that I get a call from Singapore, and a lady compliments me on the work. And she's speaking in Hindi, and she says, "बेटा बहुत अच्छा किया, पकड़ लिया. अब इनको ज़्यादा देर रखना नहीं है. ऐसा करो, एक जगह ले जाओ और शेर को ले आओ, और शेर छोड़ दो, भूखे शेर इन पर." I said, "मैडम आप कहाँ से बोल रहे हैं?" "मैं सिंगापुर में रहती हूँ बेटा, मैं ये हूँ, मैं वो." She gave her all address and her all to prove that she was a genuine person, and that it was not only her opinion, but opinion of all the fellow Indians who she knew there. And she wanted that, there should be summary trial, and they should, they should be thrown to hungry lions. Now, that is the kind of compulsion that at times, police force or law enforcement can be subject to. And this is not only true of our cinema, even in the Western Hollywood films. You have seen films like Dirty Harry, or, Die Hard, not Die Hard, there was a Charles Brosnan film in which, he doesn't believe in arresting anybody. The hero just believes in, doing summary trial and just killing the criminals on the spot. So this dilemma exists everywhere, and Ganga Jal, for all time to come, will be a classic film which shows this dilemma and which shows what it can deteriorate or degenerate itself into, that the police can degenerate itself to go to the extent of blinding people. So that is one thing I just wanted to elaborate on.
Absolutely, very well put. The police is an extension of our own baser sensibility. The kind of action which we expect the police to do is something we would like to do. But we don't have the arm, we don't have the worthy. So we actually want our dirty work to be done by police. That's the way the society puts the pressure on the cops or the system.
Incidentally, there is somebody from the Scotland Yard who is sitting in the audience. She must be quite aghast at this discussion. So, to answer your question about Chakravyuh, this whole thing about Naxalism and its origin, we had several discussions, and also if I had any feedback from my batchmates in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh and Kolkata, if there were any stories, and so several discussions took place. I also remember that by then I had moved as DG Prisons, and there was a Naxalite leader, Kobad Gandhi, who was in custody at Tihar jail, and he wanted to interview him, but the rules did not permit, because we needed a court order, and he realized that he will never get the court order, because there was strict surveillance over Kobad Gandhi by the Intelligence Bureau in the jail. So eventually I could not help him interview Kobad Gandhi, but nonetheless we had several.
The police character was slightly based on that character, yeah.
So, there was no specific discussion about the plot or about the, but whatever feedback, general feedback and inputs that I could give about nationalism as is being seen in India, I had conveyed to him, and he incorporated whatever he thought fitted the plot.
Now about Jai Gangajal. I mean, I don't know what your input in Jai Gangajal was because your main protagonist was a woman. And how did that kind of come into play?
So Jai Gangajal, the uniqueness about this film is that the protagonist is a lady cop. So I thought here is an opportunity to show on screen by somebody who is as eminent as he is, what are the difficulty that female cops experience in this service. To a certain extent, they are not taken very seriously because there are people, there are politicians who feel that if they are posted into in the field as district superintendents of police or deputy commissioners of police, they will not be able to deal with the rough and tumble of policing. So they are very wary of posting them there. So there's that little snippet about somebody whose blue-eyed girl, Priyanka Chopra is, he is considering posting her, but he has second thoughts whether his district will welcome the idea or not. And secondly, also about small things like, there are no toilets for lady cops in our police stations and police offices. I mean, now, of course, things have changed completely. But initially, when the lady police began to come in, they had these problems. And even today, the constabulary number of lady constables is going up. There are many police stations in the country which do not have proper facilities for their restrooms, their toilets, places where they can keep their clothes, their changes, and so on and so forth. So we are dealing with all that. So all those inputs I gave, and bits of it he has used. And he was talking about the number of times he works on a script. I collaborated with the script very closely with him. He would mail the script from Mumbai to me. The physical script, it will come to me in Delhi. I will correct it, mail it back. And this went on 19 times before finally he decided to go ahead with the shooting. It's a great pity that he was one guy, but that was being given to several others. But that's how it works because that's the most important part of making a movie. Yeah. So, like at one time, I also got fed up, because you have to read the same things over and over again, and so get fed up with the same things.
Yeah.
But my interest in the film was primarily to talk about the problem of having lady police and the problems that the lady police have while doing justice to their job, and how keen they are to deliver, and what are the obstacles that they face in their attempts.
I think before proceeding further, I think we'll show you a film montage made on Prakash Jha's films, and some of those where Mr. Neeraj Kumar has collaborated with and influenced. And before we start the film, I'd like to thank Mrs. Serena Narula for her company, Filmaistan, which very quickly created this very impactful montage for us. So thank you, Serena. Okay, for right now we turn to some of your books. And how did you in your book approach fracture realities of very complex investigations and make the storytelling interesting for readers? How to work on, how much of factual events can you put through to your book?
Here, having worked on the movies with Prakash helps, because the thing about editing, that what would interest a reader, that is virtually the same as it is in cinema. That is how I feel, that when you are writing, you should keep certain things which are not relevant or which hamper the speed or the growth of the main story should not be there. Incidentally, for those of you who are not aware, I have written 3 books. 2 are based on true crime stories. The first one is called Dial D for Dawn. These are operations that were conducted under my leadership when I was in CBI against the underworld, against elements of the underworld. And in each one of them, there was the factor of difficulty was pretty high. So when I recall those incidents, I stick to the facts, because I made sure that no extraneous incidents or no extraneous things came into the story, and it is as true as it actually happened, and happened to me. There are stories in which I'm trying to rescue a person being held as hostage. There are stories in which I'm getting the family of Memons from Pakistan to Dubai to Delhi, and how the ISI gets wind of this operation and how they pursue the Memon family, how I try to hoodwink them, and without being physically present in Dubai, and we managed to get them out, how the ISI gets their train tickets cancelled, their plane tickets cancelled, when they come to know that they are planning to leave Dubai for Delhi. They ring up Air India and pretending that they are from the family, and they get the tickets of those people cancelled. How there is panic in the hotels, and they think that a very serious diplomatic situation has been created. And how in the face of all the difficulty, staying in Delhi, operating through a startup person, and with the help of private details, I am able to get the Memons out of Dubai. And there are other stories like another Aftab Ansari, when the American embassy was attacked in Calcutta. The perpetrators, I was already doing some work, and I realized that the main perpetrator of that attack is the person I ended up pursuing because of a certain arms fall on the border with Gujarat. So, since I was in the CBI, I had an overall view, and I was able to connect the dots and find out that this person, Aftab Ansari, who is masquerading as Farhan Malik in Calcutta, they are one and the same person. And how we are able to get him arrested minutes before he is running out of Dubai for Karachi. He is nabbed, then he brought back. So all those stories, also we say about cricket, match fixing in cricket, the 2000, yeah. So all these stories, as they happened, almost, exactly as they happened, I've tried to narrate, and I can share with you that not even one person has pointed out that look, here you have tried to twist of facts. I'll come out with story of, everything has happened over narrated in that story.
In the Mumbai blast investigation, it led to the conviction of 100 out of 123. That's a huge number. What were your strategies, as heading the special task force, that you could get this number of convictions? That must have needed a lot of work.
So just to give you a brief background for those of you who may have forgotten about 1993 blast cases, or those who do not know much about it, on the 12th of March 1993, there were 10 serial blasts in Mumbai, and at iconic places in the Air India building, like the Stock Exchange, the Khaki Hotel, and so on and so forth, Europe Hotel. And all these blasts happened within the span of about half an hour or so. And the perpetrators of the crime were already had rubber in it. And only the people, foot soldiers, were left behind in Mumbai. All the masterminds, Dawood Ibrahim, Tiger Member, Muhammad Dosa, they are all straight from Asia. So the Mumbai police was given the case, and after about 5 months or so, because there were lots of complaints against the police that they were extorting money from the Muslim community of Mumbai, the case was handed over to the CEI, and I happened to be leading that team. And then when we took over, we gave a totally different twist in the investigation. And one thing we realized that a number of people had been arrested unnecessarily. So we managed to get a number of them discharged. So the total number of the accused who were prosecuted were reduced from nearly 400 to just 123. And they became a manageable number. Otherwise, there are so many people who are accused to get evidence against each one of them and to get witnesses against each one of them, it becomes far more difficult. And crime work is not only catching a criminal, it is prosecuting and making sure that he is convicted and that he has full proof and fair proof, evidence against him, which scientists we supports. So we made it very manageable, and it's true to the court in their satisfaction that we were actually fine. We managed to get a number of them arrested from abroad, brought back, but sadly, because you could not get Dawood, you could not get Tiger Memon, but you got Yaqub, and you got the rest of his family, who were all a team, and quite a few of them were convicted. So the whole investigation was a combination of very field work as well as the prosecution work, paperwork, evidence, making sure that the witnesses appeared in court, gave evidence without fear, and so on and so forth. So that, in brief, was the story of Mumbai law.
And your book, Cop and Cricket, you were the BCCI's Anti-Corruption and Security Unit head. You were there from 2015 to 2018. And you actually exposed a very significant corruption racket within cricket. But you also said in your book, I think, those years were full of ignominy and hurt. So what were the challenges you were facing, and why did you feel like this? Did you feel like an outsider trying to break through walls? What happened?
Yes, so first of all, we have to understand that the anti-corruption unit of the BCCI is not a police unit. It is a unit which acts as an interface between the enforcement within the BCCI and the police. So you are the go-between these two institutions. Therefore, I realized during my 3 years that people in the BCCI were primarily not keen on pursuing cases of corruption and in not being very, strict about corruption. And also that they wanted the cricketers to be, investigated. They didn't want themselves to be investigated. So no controls over them themselves, but only on cricketers. Even there, they were not very keen. So whenever I'll come up with some initiative, I was told that, or rather be technically here. And I tried several times, and finally when the youth officer became virtually chief of the BCCI, I had hopes that at least he will make sure that everything that we had planned will get done. But sadly, they are not. So I was hurt also because all whatever attempts I was making, whatever efforts I was making, was with the noblest of intentions, but they were not keen on getting one thing over. So to that extent, I felt hurt.
You said that betting is a very small part of the corruption in cricket. What kind of corruption do you think still exists, and various leagues that we have, including the IPL, etc., is corruption still prevalent there?
First of all, I want to clarify that betting is not a crime. And although we have a gambling act in India, that is quite a meek act, say, very small punishment and so on and so forth. Betting, which happens in an organized way, the laws don't cater to that, number one. And when betting degenerates into fixing, that is not defined anywhere in our laws. Our laws do not cater to a situation when it doesn't define what is fixing. And fixing is the essence of corruption in cricket. Countries like Australia, New Zealand, and various other countries have laws on fixing, match fixing, and corruption in cricket, corruption in sports in general. Unfortunately, our country does not have. There is a bill that was introduced after we arrested 3 cricketers in 2013, IPL spot fixing case. Then a bill was brought in, but sadly it has not become an act of parliament yet. So there is no legal framework to go after corruption in cricket or corruption in states, and that is why corruption continues to thrive.
You never thought of putting your head into this kind of a theme of corruption in sports?
No, not really. I've been occupied with, the society. But I'm sure that, there are some series which has been made on those. Quite a few series and also films, yeah.
On Nirbhaya, which I think you said is the most critical of your 37-year career. And what were the kind of pressures? I mean, the media, there was media scrutiny, political scrutiny. The country was broken out in protest, and a lot of fingers were being pointed at you. What was the kind of turmoil you went through during that investigation, professionally as well as personally? You're a father of 2 daughters. One can only imagine what you went through. But with this kind of pressure from all sides, how did you manage to keep the investigation on track?
So first of all, what we have to understand is that this reaction uh, in view of this crime, which itself was so ghastly, it had to result in that kind of sharp reaction from the media, from the public, from the politicians, and so on and so forth. But this was more accentuated because of the fact that the political situation in the country was such. We are talking about 2012 when the ruling party then was on its last legs. It has kind of outlived its utility and more so its legitimacy because of the various corruption scandals, including the Commonwealth Games scandal and the 2G and the coal scam and so one after the other. And those were the days when it was a coalition government. Various parties had collaborated to form the government. There were ministers of those smaller parties, and they were going amok. They were running amok in terms of making money and so on. And that is why all these scandals were happening. So the public in general, they have lost faith in the establishment, have lost faith in the government. And this incident proved to be a rallying point for all such forces, all anti-establishment forces to come together and protest. And what kind of protest that we saw. But mind you, I'm privy to the fact that most of the protests were not, we tend to think that it was all very spontaneous. It all happened on its own. But it did not stop. But it's a story I don't want to go into. It was kind of bankrolled by a certain person whom I had arrested one year. He wanted to settle scores with me. He wanted to, throw me out from the police and from that post. So he was bankrolling it himself. It was on one-to-one kind of story at some level, but I have not talked much about it. But politics are not a politics. The regarding corruption, the movement was at its peak. They rallied together with other opposition parties. Where everybody was running for how a scapegoat. They were all looking for a scapegoat. And that scapegoat turned out to be police and also with us for extortion. So I became, target for the movement. Right from the sea to the south, then to the submarine, I was only 3-5 million. But I must say, they fully credit to the very women. They stood by the record of. It is the same government against whom all the forces were. But they said that the police has not committed anything wrong. It was not the fault of the police. They appointed a commission of inquiry. That too on my request and my suggestion. I said the public wants accountability. So you appoint a commission of inquiry to fix accountability. That committee gave its report and they gave us a tweet. There was another committee to make laws. Because one of the demands was that the rape laws were very loose. So another committee was there. They framed new laws, new rape laws. So I decided to keep my people, as I've already mentioned, my investigators away from all this. And I face the result of all the criticism, media pressure and so on.
I would like to ask the question. You generally tackle a lot of pretty real life situations, whether it's caste, whether it's politics, and kind of reach the message to the audience to start a conversation. Which of your films did the best in doing that to start a fresh conversation within society?
Frankly and honestly, I wouldn't really know, because once I have made the films, I don't really keep a track as to what really has happened. People, you know, meet me and tell me they have seen and what they have felt. Because for me, honestly, it never starts with any kind of message or a mission or something that I would like to make a political or a social point. It always is a story. Things which kind of keep on happening in any sphere, like it could be dealing with crime, it could be dealing with some social aspect. Right now, I'm obsessed with why the word democracy has become so mutilated. Why at the same point of time in history of this world, right from Southeast Asia to Russia to China to India to Turkey to Europe to America, why do we have such strong Bahubali politicians ruling all over? Why do we have invested? How they have become so popular? And what is the sense and meaning of freedom now? Why I am so afraid to talk about things it was so easy to talk maybe 20 years ago. Why, society is taking that kind of turn. It impressed me because there must be some reason, something which has happened in terms of social, political, economic aspirations of the society. So a film on Loktantra, Janadesh, which is what I'm preparing to shoot starting next month. I've been working on it for a long time. So it always is a story. Because you keep hearing about these things. You keep kind of like, computing incidents which happen, why Duterte used to kind of piggy ride back on motorcycles and shoot criminals on the street and became so popular in Philippines. Why Erdogan became so popular, or Putin, how could he manage to manipulate a whole social system, political system, to continue to stay in power, perhaps, forever. Why, a communist country like China could give so much or invest so much power or thing in GPN. So these are things which I keep on computing, keep on trying, and then find stories in very basic level interaction of society. A district town called Gopalpur, what impact does all this have there? Why a woman in UP working in a field, a journalist asks her, "Kisko vote degi?" And she says, "Jista namak khaya, usko vote nahi hoga." तो लोकतंत्र नमक पे आ गया. So these are things which interest me, and I find stories, and eventually I have to tell a story which will engage people, audience. They will come and pay, and they will see and watch this film. That the conflict and the crisis in this story will not be a kind of like, a lack or excess of romance, but lack and excess of, social dealing, or convictions, or indoctrinations, or understanding of society and politics. So this is how I work.
We look forward to that one now coming on the floor. And quickly, just to ask you before we open it up to the audience, you're writing a book. You were supposed to complete it here, but you hadn't. But what's this about now?
So I won't write fiction. I only write based on my own experience. So that, like, for 3 years for CPI, I wrote in a complicated, also book about operations and incidents. So this one is about my real state as the director general of the military. And what all I saw, what all things I should wish about the retracts, and how military this whole area of correction thing to our place. So my book is about that. So it is before chapter, but I'm with it 20.
Okay, thanks everybody, and thank you, Mr. Neeraj Kumar, and thank you, Prakash Jha. For them on the last couple of days of their stay here, they're all going away now. And I'd like to request everyone to join us for a drink, and you can have a casual conversation with them. Thanks a lot. Thank you.